Alrighty, hello every folks, and good morning. Got another two teams here for you today, just kind of for the hell of it, because, when I first started this whole thing, um, what I wanted to actually kind of do in the first place was to go and kind of recreate a lot of the more interesting teams from throughout the Ogre series, and just kind of see how they translate into one vision. And then I realized there might potentially be some other funny translations as well. So today we're starting off with Sirius. He is the werewolf commander from March of the Black Queen for Lake Jansenia there, along with his four kind of mind controlled Amazons here. So we're going to go ahead and start here. So I decided to translate this guy by making him into a sacred fist. I mean, I figure the guy's technically considered to have an official position and stuff like that, so it kind of works. He's primarily an unarmed fighter, given that he's a werewolf and all of that. So obviously he's got to have the werewolf earring, or rather the wolf earring on there, along with his usual kingly type of stuff, as well as the god hand. This class doesn't get access to armor, so it's fine as it is. Figured Aegis for supporting his people nearby, Tabula Rasa for shaking off debuffs, because he is from March of the Black Queen. Those debuffs go away at the end of the fight. Fell Seal just because it was here and a way for him to handle undead units if anybody were to add any. Preempt in case they got lucky. Tactician Teratology because obviously he's going to be learning that beast stuff on account of him being a beast and all of that. Parry and Overpower because of course Field Alchemy just kind of because it's a thing to fill in a slot, I suppose, and then jump because theoretically, he should be able to jump pretty well. So, not exactly the most complicated thing, and you'll notice that as a running theme for both of the teams here today. They're not exactly very complicated, it's actually translating a very, very small pool of skills and references into filling out a full One Vision character that's actually more so the challenge here. Because honestly, when it comes to the werewolf, literally all it does is run forward and attack, so yeah, same thing with the Amazon. All it does is stand still and attack. So in this case, seeing as they were going for a whole animal theme here, we went for cat earrings on these guys. They are March of the Black Queen Amazon, so they are going to be running their headbands, armor, and short bows. However, I always personally found them pretty evasive for that part in the game, so I went ahead and gave them a main gauche, since we never actually see them using a shield, so I figured, you know what, offhand dagger, maybe they're just good at parrying. Now, on top of this, I went for a bit of a theming thing for this one. See, he's always trying to get you to fight at night. So what I did here was I gave them Augment Water so that they would use Morpheus along with their bow finishers. So this should put targets to sleep consistently. So that should be a fun little thing there. Vigorous Attack to double down on that whole evasion thing. Sleep Ward because obviously they're probably being kept awake by the werewolf there. Counter Hit and Bash because, March of the Black Queen type stuff. Rampart Aura because, well, you can't really get past their little castle thing by the coast. And then obviously Teratology because they would naturally learn a thing or two about the werewolf that's kind of kidnapped them. Also Jump because I would assume, even though they can't transform into werewolves themselves, I'd assume they at least get a little bit better at jumping. You know what? Why not? And all four of them are exactly the same. The same archetype, the same equipment, all of that kind of thing. Because, that is generally how he handles things. So we'll go ahead and set them up here. Obviously, had to put them on the Lufa coast because their castle is on the coast there. So, seemed appropriate. Okay, and then the next one is going to be Guthix Rest. Because of all things, I was looking at Sirius, and then I thought, you know what? Soricius. So, for those that have never played RuneScape before, it's a weird MMO in terms of they actually bothered to go pretty wild with the story and stuff like that. And While Guthix Sleeps is one of the quests on there that always was really memorable to me in terms of how much I frickin' hated it for basically ruining one hell of a long build-up. So here's the general setup of what happens there. You've got like 15 storylines worth of build-up, as well as lots of different events and whatever else, of a story that's basically supposed to start a sort of cataclysmic endgame for the game. As far as I'm aware, it never actually came. They basically just had several back-to-back quests where they're like, look, everything's over, all hope is lost, and then just like random Deus Ex Machina. Like, nothing pissed me off more than this quest back when I was getting my cape and stuff in that game. simply because they're like, look here, go collect all these dudes and everything, especially this guy, from all corners of the world, and all these NPCs are basically just vaporized in 2 seconds. They literally do nothing. Like, here's this team of heroes, does nothing, almost dies off screen. You just barely see it happen. Anyway, so yeah, translating their weirdness though was a fun little challenge here. So we're gonna go ahead and start off with Hairlack here. He's probably one of the less interesting ones. They set him up as this like fencer guy that's supposed to be the best fencer ever. Weirdly enough, you never actually see him fight anything, as far as I'm aware. That might have changed, since obviously a lot of things have changed in that game, and the old school version doesn't have this plotline yet. But anyways, so in his particular case, he is the only one of the party, or he's one of, I think, like 2 dudes that actually survives. So he was given a stone ward because he wasn't turned to stone and vaporized. Okay, HP infusion, because presumably he was able to heal himself. Faded circle, because he's supposed to never miss and whatever. And then parry overpower, of course, as well as Thetenology, because maybe that helped him survive. Fencing sword, fencing dagger, cloak and dagger kind of thing with his cloak here. Scout leggings, because that dude just freaking up and bailed. This feels pretty appropriate for the guy. I went for a spell blade specifically, because none of the kind of fancy feather hat having guys could use this particular setup, which I thought was a bit more appropriate. So he went for fencer so that he has those feathers on his head anyway. Alright, next up we get Durdell, the guy that had no frickin' business being there in the first place. So he's one of the Slayer Masters in the game. And it's completely inexplicable what the hell he's basically doing as an authority on anything. The guy basically has no armor. His equipment is so obscenely obsolete that it's not even funny. For the sake of context, claws, right? In that particular context, they were generally seen as one of the worst weapons of the game. Dude's got not even the best version. Ironically, the upgrade to those claws is available from completing this quest there. It's actually how I ended up getting a lot of the money from my main account back in the day. But basically, he's got rune claws. General idea being that it is a two-handed weapon that only attacks with one hand most of the time. I was very tempted to not actually give him dual wield, because literally the special is just you bother to raise your left hand and actually attack with both claws for once, and it's like 10% stronger. It's one of the most hilariously lame weapons in the game. But anyways, yeah, this dude's supposed to be an authority on killing things, and he realistically would probably melt in a fight immediately, which he does. Anyway. So augment Earth to try and get him some value out of his claws, Berserk because maybe he'll actually do something this time. You'll notice that not all of them are going to be using weapon skills, because in RuneScape's case, characters barely get any abilities whatsoever. Most of it is handled through equipment and items, and just kind of generally playing smart. And in Durdell's case, literally all he ever does is poke stuff with his claws. So basically that's all he's going to be doing here. Heron, because he lives relatively close to the water. I like to think that they probably would end up going to the water at some point. Steadfast, because the dude never moves. And, the rest of this is pretty obvious. Okay. Next up, we got Sloan, the supposedly strongest guy in the game. Again, basically melts immediately, but whatever. So, yeah, obviously we gotta have a big ol' axe, because he uses a double-headed axe. Went for Beast Tamer, because he's got a permanent 5 o'clock shadow. I'm not sure what that's about. A bunch of strength-boosting gear in all slots, so his strength is going to be phenomenally high. And as a little bit of additional kind of reference to the fact that he permanently looks like he's drunk, I like to think that he's going to hand people day-old sandwiches in the form of Feral Remedy to give them a really awful heal, because this thing does not heal very much to to human units. It's primarily going to be leftovers that heal people for 10% and monsters for 50%. I really love that as a detail about Feral Remedy, but anyway. So yeah, we never directly see him do anything other than swing his axe once, so I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt and give him axes and augment fire to reference the whole he's the guy that hands out the strength cape thing. Again, one of many that just basically doesn't last at all. And then we got one of the few in this group that I actually like here, which was Turiel, because he's the first NPC that you see with a halberd. Also not terribly great at what he does, also just basically breaks his halberd and dies immediately. But hey, you know, it's something. Gave him fervor because the White Knight's kind of generic outfit here looks very close to what he wears in game, so you know, it's something. Vigorous attack to hopefully lead everybody a little bit. He is the first Slayer teacher that you get, so hopefully he's a decent leader. Steadfast because again he doesn't move anywhere. Draconology because again he's a Slayer guy, along with a spear that boosts this. Well, not boosts this, but it also gets a similar bonus. So he should be pretty good against dragons. He didn't have any Slayer skills on here, though realistically I probably should have gone Slayer set on him. And missed opportunity, whatever, maybe next revision. And then we get to probably the most interesting of the bunch, which is going to be Ciricius here, because his build was always dorky to begin with. So this weirdo decides to show up with, like, wizard robes, a dragon med helm, and a whip, which kinda sorta works-ish, I guess, if you squint hard enough. The general idea behind this guy is that he's somebody that's basically traumatized in a cave when you find him, and his whole quest involves going into his dreams in order to fix his mental problems. Now, this is a kind of interesting setup and all that, and I personally really liked that quest in general. Inadequacy is probably one of my favorite themes in that game, and the overall dorkiness of the build is something I always found fun. But here's the thing. Despite the fact that he learns to be a, like, world-traveling kind of dude here, he ends up being a, you know, adventurer and all of that, and you regularly can use the Lunar Spellbook to talk to him about all the completely made-up nonsense that he's doing at any given time. Basically, his preference is the Lunar Spellbook, which, okay, I always found it kind of fascinating because they basically just had a Pacifist spellbook that was available in that game. Again, in an MMO, most of its support abilities are stuff that could completely backfire because people had Accept Aid turned off, which normally people would do because it was a very abusable thing. So anyways, translating all of that to his spell list here was odd. So here's the thing. Most of what I wanted to get in here actually did work. So, for example, Vengeance easily translates to Razorback. Basically, Spike's Kin is more or less just Vengeance, so that works just fine. It's got a whole lot of abilities to, for example, water the plants, cure poison, all of that kind of thing, so Purify seems to check all those boxes just fine. Spark Sphere, it was a bit of a bummer because I completely forgot that warlocks don't get this, even though I use a warlock on Denim on my most recent playthrough. But yeah, they don't get access to the missile spells, but it's primarily here as a reference to the fact that he can actually switch through different spell books for one cast. So effectively, he would be able to use something, you know, like Fire Blast, Fire Burst, whatever else, from the normal spell book. So it's there. Melta, I figured they've got the ability to superheat metal and you know, kind of melt stuff down. So you know what, maybe he might be able to weaponize that. Why not? We've got Heal, so you've got the option to sacrifice your health to heal somebody else. Lancet does that exact same thing, so that works out fine. And same thing for weaponizing things like glass melting and whatever else. Flare seemed like it was a nice way to give him a little bit of offense while giving him that ability. And now, again, as another reference to him switching spellbooks a bunch, and since it's probably something that would be difficult to use, I only gave him the advanced version of Rhyme, so Rhyme Hue, to basically reference Ancients, because you do see him using Ice Barrage at one point, if I recall. There's a lot of teleports, so that's obviously in there, and you get regeneration abilities in there, so Renewal was on there as well. Now, this absolutely funky jank setup did end up taking half his dang skill list, but hey, you know, it works. Also Sleep Ward, because the dude's probably never sleeping again. Clarity, because he probably keeps a stack of runes on him at all times, and then, you know, Parry, Counter, Tactician, because of course. And then lastly, the Leviathan, because the whip is one of the fastest weapons in the game, so double attacking with a whip, it probably works in this context. And additionally, Hydro Press, because the special on the whip does slow a unit down. So in this case, while it is definitely more powerful than the actual one, it works. It thematically does the job. Okay, so we'll go ahead and get this fight started. Honestly, I'm kind of thinking that we're probably going to end up seeing the Lake Genesia team kind of pull this off, because they've got more ranged attack options, and basically characters in RuneScape are really, really stunted in terms of their abilities. It's probably part of the reason that they decided to give them all kinds of special moves and whatever else in the most modern version, even though everybody prefers the old school version for the most part. Because it's just way more charming and nobody's there for those, kind of ridiculously sweaty skill mashing grinds and whatever else. But you know what? To each their own. Personally, I kind of quit around the time that they decided to put a frickin' roulette wheel in the main menu, but again, to each their own. Now, given the consistency of the ranged units, given the fact that they're going to be putting targets to sleep, I'm going to assume that they're absolutely going to dominate this one, because despite its simplicity, for shortbow users with really high evasion is just a really solid build. Effectively, they're going to be able to avoid a lot of attacks, like we saw right there. Even though their counterattacks are not really much to write home about, they're just going to be very reliable, I would figure, so that's currently the bet. Especially considering that most of the Guthix Rest team is a bit of a meme, so whatever, it is what it is. But yeah, I'm kind of curious to see what else we'll end up getting out of this, and also, yes, I messed up the emulator settings yet again. It's fine, don't worry about it. Oh, she's going for the shackle. Okay, that's honestly kind of a little bit of a problem. Whatever. It's fine. It's fine. Yeah, unfortunately, they will occasionally attack with the parrying dagger. It's just, you never see them block with a shield. I guess you technically don't see them block with a dagger either, but it just sort of feels appropriate, and I kind of figured they would just keep firing their bows, get their skill ranks up, never get a chance to shackle, but things happen, I suppose. But yeah, they're doing a good job of this. They haven't unlocked the main skill that they're going to be using, which is Morpheus. So they're going to pretty much just be trying to unlock that at this point. Okay, so he's going to go ahead and warp out of here. After thinking about it a little bit, as far as the whole units warping out of the fight thing, I'm not really sure that that's a bad thing. As in, like, even though it only affects one team, I haven't heard anything in terms of a kind of version of the cheat that doesn't do that. Like, that maybe would affect both teams, but honestly, if at least one of them's out of the picture, that's fine. The main issue that comes up in the multiplayer mode is just that the AI kind of screws up. That they find themselves in this position where they'll repeatedly just kind of get stuck due to all the bodies on the ground. So either way, there's that. So yeah, so far, let's see. We've got. Oh, we were about to see one of the werewolf team members go down. But so far, so good. They seem to be holding up reasonably well. I forgot to turn off, forgot to turn on the auto text. Yet another thing to correct for next time. Yeah, I love how every time that I change something in the emulator, something else goes funky, and I can never remember why. Yeah, we gotta do something about these parrying daggers. Maybe I should give out more shields, because everyone's just breaking each other's arms. So that's gonna be something to look into. At least we saw Ciricius use some ancients there, so it's something. And gets himself got pretty much immediately. Yeah, this is pretty much a total wash here. Again, very simple, very effective. I feel like they did the job pretty well. Probably gonna redo them. Well, with something. I'm not really sure what to remake them with. Because I don't want to give them longbows, obviously. But it's like they were directly just Amazons. I don't want to necessarily give them shields. I mean, maybe bucklers, just to kind of have something in that slot. Like, I guess leaving them with an empty arm is probably fine, too. Because it's just going to give them more speed and all that. I don't know. Okay, so I'm going to have to think about that. As far as our fancy guy over there, he has to keep his dagger. So the thing with the fencer guy, even though he's never shown using a defender, he's basically sitting around right next to where the defenders are manufactured, so he totally has a defender, he's just not showing it for cosmetic reasons. At least that's how I'm reading that situation. So, yeah, probably gonna have to figure out some way to get him to not use it as a weapon all the time, though. Yeah, the AI loves to use their parrying daggers. Apparently they love shackle, so yeah, they're just gonna keep on breaking arms. Oh, man. Well, that's amusing. Alright. So is it fair to say that these guys are probably completely screwed? Yeah, more than likely, because they're down to their last three. They've already lost two members. They have not managed to achieve a single casualty, and additionally they're regenerating on top of everything. They've managed to disable 2/3 of what's left of this team. I think it's safe to say stop beating them, they're already dead. But yeah, we gotta do something about these pairing daggers, I think. Okay, anyway, so that is going to be about that for today then. I gotta get going here, bit of a shorter one today. I was planning to do a few other ones here, so let me know what kind of teams you'd like to see translated into this. Currently we have quite a few slots still left for this sort of mini tournament thing. So yeah, that's going to be that. And I think once we actually get to the kind of tournament part of this whole thing, we're going to do essentially 2 fights per each matchup, one on each of their home territories, as it were. Since a lot of these maps will clearly advantage one or the other, it's just, for the most part, I'm going to be giving them maps that kind of fit their background and stuff like that. That's one of the other things that's kind of there for the purpose of not just going full like Sweatlord with stuff all the time, because it's less interesting to do it that way, because there would ultimately just be maps that are better. Like, basically, when it comes to any of the flat maps, they're going to benefit a lot of units. When it comes to anything that's going to benefit from awkward movement, the Lufa Coast here has a tendency to be really good for that, due to the fight typically kind of being around these obstacles in the center. So anything that disables movement can be doubly effective here. Anyways, there's a lot of ways for it to potentially play out here, but we'll see. Anyway, so I gotta get going. Y'all have yourselves a good one, and yeah, remember that pretty much any team submitted that has anything to do with RuneScape will probably go like this. They just don't really have much going for them, for the most part. I mean, it's basically an MMO where you're meant to play as the everyman that kind of sucks at everything, so yeah. High strength does not exactly translate to high strategy. Alright, y'all have yourselves a good one, and take care.